Good afternoon. Welcome all to Naropa University's 2018 Spring Commencement. My name is Lorenzo Gonzalez, and I'm the chair of the MFA in Theater Contemporary Performance, and it is my great honor and pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies. Before we begin, we start with an invocation, and I would like to invite Lori Rugenstein, who is a professor in mindfulness-based transpersonal counseling in the Graduate School of Counseling Psychology. Lori began her relationship in Naropa as a teaching assistant in the BA Psychology program in 1988. In the early 1990s, Lori began teaching in the Transpersonal Counseling Psychology program. She served as adjunct faculty, core faculty, founder and director of the Music Therapy Concentration, chair of Cauldron, and concentration coordinator for the counseling program. Her favorite class to teach, contemplative voice work. In addition to her work at Naropa, Lori served as music therapist with hospice for 21 years. Lori Rugenstein.
Thank you, Lorenzo. I often find that music can carry more meaning than words, so I'm going to give you a musical offering for our invocation today. And I invite you, if it feels right to you, to close your eyes so your ears get really big and you can take the music in.
It is now my great pleasure to introduce Naropa University's President, Charles G. Leaf. Chuck Leaf was named the 7th president of Naropa University in 2012 and has a deep connection to Naropa that spans more than 40 years. A little known fact about Chuck is that he has counted to infinity twice.
Thank you. I'll start with ringing the gong and bowing. Please feel free to join. can't drink Krista's water. I have to. Okay, that's mine. You're safe. All right. Whoops. Did I do something wrong? Sorry. Okay. I want to welcome all of you on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Naropa, our faculty, administrative staff, and all of our students. I'm especially delighted to welcome the graduates, all of you. Along with your friends and family who are here to celebrate accomplishment and a journey well-traveled. I'm also especially honored to welcome Krista Tippett, who I'll say a little bit more about later, but good. But Krista's life work has been to share with us the lives and the stories of brilliant thinkers, deep practitioners, and social justice warriors, the sort of perfect Naropa student. And so I'm delighted that Krista was able to join us this year. I also want to call our attention to the photograph on the stage of our beloved faculty member and friend, Bobby Louise Hawkins, who died last week. Bobby Louise shared wit and wisdom with Naropa students, faculty, and staff for more than 30 years. And I will say, if you didn't encounter Bobby Louise in person, I urge you to take advantage of experiencing her through her writings and through her speaking, which are readily available. I have to say that Bobby Louise always intimidated me to some extent. I'm sure I'm not alone, but particularly to me. We were very fond of each other, I think, but she was also very direct, and direct in a way that I have found that particularly is powerfully manifested by women from West Texas. I know several, and they're all like Bobby Louise, and they all are scary. In offering, I was looking at some of the teachings from Bobby Louise, and in offering teaching about speaking from the stage, she gave some instruction. She warned that we should take care when we're on stage speaking not to look like a blot on the landscape. However, then she said, but you should also look good. Just to make it even more opaque, she then said, but look good just so long as you don't think good means having a personality. Personality, she said, is a very real problem. So, to me, her teaching of balancing discipline with authenticity is much more than public speaking advice and carries a lot of universal relevance, but I appreciated being reminded of it. If I didn't have enough pressure to offer remarks to you all that are so meaningful that you're going to carry them with you for your lives or tattoo them somewhere, I now also have Bobby Louise keeping track of me, which is a little bit daunting. We will be celebrating Bobby Louise's life during the summer writing program on June 17th, so for any of you that are in Boulder, please join us for that. A few years ago, I was having a media interview, I don't remember which one, with somebody who didn't know very much about Naropa. And they were asking, what is it about? What do we do? And I spontaneously said at that point that Naropa was the birthplace of the modern mindfulness movement. That seemed like a perfectly reasonable thing to say at the time, although I don't know where it came from, but I said it. And since that time, it's now, as these things happen, we've now frozen that in time and space, and we use it now in press releases and social media posts all over the place. But I thought that now that it's fermented for a couple of years, it's probably time to see whether or not that idea is true or whether it was an expression of that personality that Bobby Louise was talking about. So for those of you, well, let me say, for those of you that are worried about the answer to that question, since you've spent several years with us thinking that was true, I'll say that I believe that, in fact, we were that birthplace. The labor pains that were experienced in 1974 were real, and the mindfulness baby was born in Boulder at what is now the home of Alfalfa Supermarket, which I realize today is our very own manger. So I think we have to put a plaque there at some point. I'm realizing we haven't done. But when I said mindfulness or mindfulness movement, I didn't actually mean the mind training discipline that's in some quarters today has become a clinical tool to help with focus and productivity. Mindfulness at Naropa more is a juicy mix of contemplative practices, compassionate action, and fierce allegiance to social justice. And as our faculty, will attest, every one of you sitting in these front rows of the auditorium and who are about to receive a degree wholeheartedly jumped into the cauldron, which is Naropa. Your discipline, your humor, and your unfiltered honesty firmly establishes each of you as members of the lineage of Naropa graduates who now and for the rest of your time will fully enliven both the transform yourself and transform the world halves of our Naropa slogan. I've also been thinking that we may have made a mistake when we applauded the brilliant minds that came up with transform yourself, transform the world, and you know who you are. Many people will take credit, but not after this, I don't think. Looking at it deeply, transformation is actually a fine word, and I think makes sense. The challenge, I think, is that in common usage, transformation is actually looked at or defined as change. And I would say that Naropa's reason for being is not to teach change, but to create conditions for each person with whom we encounter to learn tools, to grow, and to evolve. Change, I think, often suggests leaving one supposed reality and manifesting another. That's often driven by fear and discomfort. We don't like something about ourselves or our world, or most likely there are lots of things we don't like about ourselves and our world, and we think that if we leave the unpleasantness behind like a bag of trash, the new reality is going to be better. And actually, these days in the mindfulness movement, tools exist to support that approach, including some methods of mindfulness practice which promise that if you follow the breath, it will somehow land in the lungs of the new you. And yet, when the meditation app rings, and we don't use bells anymore, we use apps, when the meditation app rings from the instructor's iPhone, the old you is still doing the breathing. Surprise! Mindful evolution, I think, takes a different road by adding a good dose of compassion and social justice work into the mix. Without that, the bag of garbage, with that, the bag of garbage is actually viewed as valuable. Maybe unpleasant, but it still holds the historical record of who we are, of what's important to us, and what we've chosen to toss away. It's not that bad. Yeah. But it looks at what we cling to and what we reject. Acceptance and rejection actually, I think, defines the ground of change in a conventional sense. We clear the decks and we make room for the new us. But what if we learn to understand that the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is to look closely at what triggers our rejection or our aggression, and the kindest thing that we can do for someone else is to invite them to share their garbage with us. That may be how evolution happens, and that may be the essence of the Naropa learning outcomes. Now, I'll bet that the majority of graduation speeches this month across the country are going to reference something like, "We're living in a climate more polarized than ever." And then the speaker is going to spin a story about how the graduates from University X are uniquely qualified to change this sorry state of affairs. The problem with that well-meaning statement to me is that it actually isn't likely to be true. Because the conventional way, I think, of defining what a qualified person is still mostly links to objective outcomes, which for the most part haven't changed since the Western academic tradition was established. Now, I think that we can see that polarization in a way created Naropa 44 years ago in 1974. The world, and certainly the country, was still feeling the impact of the assassinations of Dr. King and Senator Robert Kennedy, which actually happened now a half century ago. Embedded racism pervaded our civil society. Economic progress meant finding better ways to endanger our planet's very existence. Thousands of conscripted soldiers were still in an overseas war zone. And in the middle of our second summer session, the President of the United States resigned his office. Not what I would call good times. Polarization was the fact even almost 50 years ago. The vision of Naropa's founders arose from a deep sense that we would only positively impact personal and social evolution if future generations of leaders, you all, could be invited into an academic community which accepted their whole beings, baggage and all, and were offered an education in which training both the heart and the mind was seen as co-equal and indeed equally essential. When we add contemplative practices to teaching, which we have done for all these decades, we still have a curriculum in many ways that seems familiar to faculty anywhere, with the added twist that this curriculum only works when the faculty shares the commitment to authentically show up. It's safe to say at Naropa, our faculty authentically show up, so thank you for that. But by adding compassion training, which I will say today still feels to some like the hippies are at the gate, Naropa offers you the ground from which evolution is possible, along with the tools to support that work. In many ways, the world is actually catching up with our founding vision. Our friend, Dr. Richard Davison, who some of you know at the University of Wisconsin, is scientifically proving the value of mindfulness training for the resilience of first responders and teachers, healthcare workers, and more. Richie is a buddy of the Dalai Lama, which adds to the "this is really cool" factor, which has helped get actually his work more widely distributed. And the research that our colleague, Dr. Amishi Jha at the University of Miami is doing around the impact of adding compassion training to mindfulness practice is now also being recognized as something very powerful. I think it's great to have science to validate Naropa's pioneering approach to education, for sure. But I think even greater is the incredible impact that our alumni are having on a world in dire need of your effort and your energy. And the certainty that I and all of my colleagues here have that your life stories are actually going to be the real evidence. Evidence is measured not just numerically, but by looking at how it feels, how it inspires, and how it helps. And most importantly, how it encourages the evolution of kindness and tolerance through whatever gateway you choose, whether it's tied directly to your major, whether it's an integration of the sum of your Naropa experience, or something completely fresh. No doubt you'll offer the world your learning, your realizations, and your passion in many ways, through work as counselors and healers, teachers, performers, writers, social activists, and combinations of all those. Sometimes the best and the most generous offerings will be through the spontaneous and skillful use of less conventional wake-up calls that Naropa students are really good at offering. We want to capture those stories too, because that's the data that I think is really going to be of most meaning. So it's our delight to celebrate the dedication, the commitment, and the achievements, the generous ways you've brought your full selves to Naropa, even when some parts of you didn't seem especially welcome. And much gratitude for adding your energy to the energy lineage of this university. It's very important for us. It is absolutely in keeping with why this place was founded. You've carried that torch beautifully, and I'm delighted to be able to share this day with you to recognize your accomplishments. I want to close with a poem, and I've done this each year for the last few years, a poem written by our founder, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. I took a license to use a couple of English translations of 2 Sanskrit words for those few of you here who are not yet fluent in Sanskrit. But I think that these few lines may be the clearest description of Naropa's mission, and I hope will resonate with all of you. Trungpa Rinpoche said, "In the jungles of flaming ego, may there be cool iceberg of awakened heart. On the racetrack of bureaucracy, may there be the walk of the elephant. May the sumptuous castle of arrogance be destroyed by diamond-like confidence. In the garden of gentle sanity, may you be bombarded by coconuts of wakefulness." So, thank you and congratulations. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker, Krista Tippett. Krista was at our house last night for a reception, and it seemed like we'd been together forever. That's not always been the case with commencement speakers, but I'm very grateful for the connection. Krista is a Peabody Award-winning broadcaster, National Humanities Medalist, and a New York Times bestselling author. For many years, she offered Speaking of Faith on NPR. She's founded and leads the On Being Project, hosts the globally esteemed On Being public radio show and podcast, and curates the Civil Conversations Project, which is an emergent approach to conversation and relationship across the differences of our age. Krista actually grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, attended Brown University, and became a journalist and a diplomat in Cold War Berlin, later receiving a Master of Divinity from Yale University. Naropa's MDiv program was not open at that time, so apparently Yale was a good option. Her books include Becoming Wise, an inquiry into the mystery and art of living, and Einstein's God, conversations about science and the human spirit. Now, many of you know that NPR has a promotional piece, or used to, that talks about stories which keep you in your car, in the driveway, even after arriving home. I can't tell you the number of driveways, parking lots, rest areas I've camped in while listening to the end of one of Krista's broadcasts. Today, we can actually all share one of those moments together, and please welcome Krista Tippett.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am so honored to be with you, and a little bit daunted. So this is your day of accomplishment and life passage, and it will not have escaped you that the world out there is going through its own rather messy life passage. You are being sent out from this place of learning and contemplation to a world of great tenderness and tumult. And what made the news yesterday, or what was in the headlines yesterday and today, and what trended 20 minutes ago, tells a story of disarray and despair and destruction, of suffering and mindlessness heaped upon each other. This is part of the story of our time, but it is not the whole story of our time. There is also the generative, enlightened possibility of our time of compassion and healing and all the waking up we are doing to all kinds of things that need to change and all kinds of possibility collectively. This is unfolding life by life, community by community, breath by breath, day by day. I know that every one of you is leaning into this, that you are part of the fullness of the story of our time. And Chuck, I have to say, this sounds a little bit like those other commencement speeches, but I hope you're gonna like my analysis. Because as I thought about coming to be with you today in this singular, extraordinary place of in American life and education, I felt called to share with you first my clarity that what you have been learning here these past years has precisely equipped you to meet the world in its pain and its promise while continuing to walk with your own pain and promise. And of course, that is one of the things you know. That inner life and outer presence in the world are intertwined, whether we want them to be or not, that they are companions towards wholeness. And after your years here, that may sound like such an obvious, basic fact of life, but it is not obvious to everyone. I am really fascinated, the longer I live, by how we strange human creatures continually unlearn the most elemental things, and we have to relearn them time and time again until one day perhaps we learn them as if for the first time with consciousness. So we shouldn't need Brené Brown's social scientific research and a great TED Talk to remind us that we are vulnerable, right? But there's been this great awakening to this fact that we are vulnerable. I mean, another of our great cutting-edge inventions that I'm so fascinated by is farm to table. And while no one in this room probably loves Westworld more than me, I also have a critical distance on the fact that we're so titillated by the prospect of our technologies, not just being intelligent, but becoming sentient and becoming conscious. We already are sentient. Like, we actually know how that feels. We are conscious. And we already, on top of those other miraculous things, have it in us to become wise, to ennoble consciousness. And of course, the Buddha started talking about these things a couple thousand years ago. Nevertheless, culturally, and I think most frantically in the last century or so, we have celebrated the relentless cultivation of loud, exterior, large, loud exterior accomplishment. And we separated out and kind of demoted the cultivation of inner life. In our most powerful places, we made inner life optional. If you get around to it, maybe when you're old and you've already made all your money. By the choices you have already made to be in this place and to let it nourish what you next become, I do believe that you are breakers of this cycle. Yeah. And it's not a moment too soon, because it is as though I look at us and it feels like our globalized economies and our dazzling technologies have so rapidly outstripped our ability to shape them to human purposes that they have landed us directly back with the problem of ourselves, the ancient problem of the human condition. When I started speaking of faith, which became on being, in the early century, near the turn of the century, I like to say that. One of the things I heard, especially in newsrooms and in public radio and other respectable places, was that this subject is just too irrational and subjective. And I would say irrational and subjective, unlike politics and economics, which you cover all the time. And I have to say, today I rest my case. And I think also this is where I'm going to differ from those other speeches, because when I look at what is wrong with politics and economics, what I see at these things it is just that much more apparent that they are the thinnest of veneers over the human drama of fear and pain and loss and hope. In this place, you have sought and been entrusted as a matter of fact with the elemental, hard, and life-giving knowledge that you are suffering and so is everyone else. And that we have to work with that. We have to work directly with that. In our culture, in our cultural life at large, we're skilled at outrage, right? We do outrage out of our suffering and at suffering. We actually honor anger and hate as part of our life together. And honor, by that I mean, we honor it in the sense that we take these things so seriously. We investigate them and shine a light on them. We study them. We respond and react to them. We do not know collectively, we are such beginners collectively, at how to stand with and honor pain and fear and suffering in and of themselves, to let them have their reality so that they may have a chance to soften. In fact, to greet them in their wholeness and as a potential source of compassion. You have been schooled in disciplines of sitting with, of letting everything arise, of allowing discomfort, of being curious about, gently mistrusting that exhilarating feeling when suffering hardens and momentarily feels like power. This world we inhabit urgently needs your presence. It needs what you know manifest and embodied. People often ask me, I don't know why, this is a question everybody has, what's the favorite interview you ever did? And that is just the one question I could never answer. My mind goes blank. And I always say, and this is the true answer, the favorite interview I ever did is the last one I did. And most recently, I interviewed Angel Kyoto Williams, who I'm sure some of you know. Yeah. Which, has changed me. And one of the things she says, which I continue to carry with me, is for those of us who are not monastics, the world is our field of practice. The world is our field of practice. The longer I live, and the more I do and see, I cannot understand. And I wanted to say also that this language infused my thinking about, what I wanted to tell you about what I've learned through this life I live, and also what I wish someone might have said to me at this stage of life. Although I realize that's kind of a silly sentence because you're at every stage of life out there. But one of the things I want to say is that I cannot understate the importance of developing a spiritual muscle to attend to the intentionality, the intention that you bring to everything you do and say and create and participate in. And we are so action-oriented in this culture that this is the part we often speed up or skip over, even if we meditate. Always take great care with the how and the why of what you're doing as much as the what. Maybe take more care with the how and the why. In my work, where a conversation begins, shapes everything that follows. But a conversation begins before any words are spoken. It's in the invitation extended, the trustworthy atmosphere created, the care in a hospitable first question that invites the soft, searching aspect of another human being into the room. And that's not usually the aspect we invite others into our rooms in our public spaces. And that question that invites softness and searching gently lays groundwork for other more challenging questions that draw out dignity and honesty and revelation, and that make it reasonable to ask someone to bring that into a conversation with a stranger. I think I'm echoing Buddhist core principles when I speak about intention, right intention. In my early 20s, when I was coming back to spiritual inquiry, one of my great teachers across space and time was Thomas Merton, and also his writing about his conversations with Buddhist monastics. And I took at that time, and this has been with me, and it's just grown in how important it is to me. He said, he made a distinction between a good intention and a pure intention, and he said, of course, a good intention is a fine thing. But a pure intention is what you really want, and a pure intention is when you do whatever you're doing for the very best reason you can muster, and then you can also, with peace, relinquish your control over what happens next, over the outcomes. So, right now culturally, and I don't know if I should be talking about this, but here goes. I see us calling companies that are changing the way we learn and lead and love, calling them to a moral reckoning. And if I am attentive to how important intentions are, and I see that some of these enterprises started with an intention to move fast and break things, or even don't be evil without any inborn vision and rigor around what it means to be good, I don't think we should be surprised that the path to transformation is murky and uncertain. That's going to be hard. In our life together as citizens, we have been raised for a few generations, and we have certainly raised and trained you. We have raised ourselves to be advocates, to be articulators and defenders of our beliefs and our identities. And this is a noble pursuit, and there is certainly a place for it, but it is different from being a warrior in the sense that you've learned that language here. the humble warrior, or the fierce bodhisattva. These are countercultural contradictions in terms. I see a subtle, soul-stealing fixation in our culture towards the fights being fought, towards what we resist and must overcome. And again, while that can be noble work, it can also take us away from our driving, defining orientation towards the possibility of healing and compassion, which are our original abiding intentions. And even in that, taking the enemy as our teacher as part of that picture. So to you, I'd say, attend with your wonderfully flexed meditative muscles to what you are rewarding with the precious, sacred energy of your intentions and your orientation. The language of moral imagination I like. It's magnetic to me these days as I keep thinking about the long-term human, spiritual, civilizational work at hand. Moral imagination learns to discern the enduring shape of deep reality and potential against the news that is, as we say, breaking. It orients and constantly reorients towards what can be awakened and deepened. Again, all things you've been learning here. A second thing I wish someone had taught me at this stage in your life, and it may sound like a diversion from that, but I think it follows organically, and that if we can get our orientation straight and be clear about the ground on which we stand and where we want all this to go and to grow, we must allow ourselves joy and seek joy whenever and wherever we can find it. And I'm just going to say to you that I knew I was going to say this, and then I walked past all of you in the hallway coming in here with this exuberant joy ringing around me, and I thought, they don't need to hear this. Maybe there's someone in the room who needs to hear this. You're happy. At the beginning of my life, my adult life, was so earnest. I was overly earnest, and that over-earnest led the quality of my form of saving the world and actually my own well-being astray. I want you to insist on joy, even as you are serving, even as you are perhaps more attuned to the suffering in the world than everybody else around you, even when you feel lost and uncertain, as you will, as we all do, again and again across the span of our lives, even those of us who look like we might have gotten our act together. I keep Pema Chodron's "When Things Fall Apart" with me wherever I go. Because things are always falling apart. I let her remind me every time I'm surprised that sense of the fixed solid ground beneath my feet was what was the illusion. And I'm so aware that right now in this country, we are fighting principally over an illusion that really got out of control in the 20th century, that we would defy the laws of physics and everything would only go up and nothing would ever come down. I think possibly, not that I can imagine what goes on in the mind of Pema Chodron, possibly she would say we are experiencing groundlessness, which was always the natural condition. It's a reality check. And by the way, an opening to change and to growth. But back to joy. In another room, not that long ago, a room full of very powerful people who have the means and the enterprises to make a lot of change, but maybe that kind of outcome-based change. That one of these powerful people stood up and said, how can we find joy in a moment like this? And I see a lot of good people right now nurturing anxiety and joy and distress in themselves and thus in others, because it seems the only reasonable way to be in a moment like this, that joy would be a luxury, perhaps a privilege, even an insult to those on the losing side of this moment's equations. But surely, amidst all of our greatest hope for the world, for our neighbors, and even those people who most dismay and frighten us, we want the world ultimately to recover its capacity for lightness and joy. Joy is not a luxury. It is not a privilege. It is a resilience-giving, life-giving birthright. And we can't call forth in the world something we don't believe in and embody. And again, that we believe in and embody, that it is as powerful as anger. And human flourishing, by the way, has never just been about reacting well to what's going right. I learned that from Mathieu Ricard. Our American pursuit of happiness, the way we've done this, may be something we have to outgrow, but I do see a capacity to know joy and gratitude in every moment, if not about everything, as a mark of the wisest people I've known and the places where human flourishing is manifest. The Buddha has that smile, right? The world knows His Holiness the Dalai Lama by his laugh. Jerry Colonna, who's on your board, was taking me through the Pamela Krasny Center yesterday, and here's what you said to me. You know, she's one of the most amazing women. She was always laughing. This is not a personality quirk. It's not an eccentricity that just happens to be connected to an enlightened existence. It is in the essence of enlightenment. Desmond Tutu, the Dalai Lama's friend, said to me, in no uncertain terms, that God has a sense of humor. And when Desmond Tutu tells you that, I mean, I don't know what it means, but I believe it's true. If I have learned anything in all my conversations across all these years, it is this another strange, deep truth of our species, that wisdom emerges precisely through moments when we have to hold seemingly opposing realities in a creative tension and interplay. Dismay and joy, power and tenderness, pain and hope, brokenness and beauty, mystery and conviction, calm and fierceness, mine and yours. My final word to you is to not let yourself lose the friendships you found here. Don't lose the teachers. To know the urgent importance of finding friendships and teachers wherever you go. For although it is life-giving and redemptive, this kind of groundlessness we inhabit, this kind of crossroads of reckoning, is not simple or easy to bear. And we are not meant to carry it alone. We surround ourselves with others who can hold mighty choices like love and joy and compassion with us and for us on the days and weeks, months when it might be simply too much to ask of us. I am so grateful to be standing here, looking out at all of you and knowing that you are my spiritual companions for this daunting and wondrous time ahead. I offer you my blessings and deep congratulations.
Well, this is the part of the afternoon where I get to say, Bienvenidos a Sábado Gigante! It is a giant Saturday, and so we have a performance for you, and before we have the performance, I'd like to break a little bit with tradition, and I would like to offer words from the MC to the graduates. It's not gonna be, don't worry, it's gonna be short, okay? This really works, okay? Keep your eyes open on Thursday for a special opportunity. That can't be it. Hang on. I told you not to mess with my cookies, Chuck. I have another one. A pleasant surprise is in store for you. Please welcome Chia Saito, Master of Fine Arts, Theater Contemporary Performance, Álvaro Saldaña Penagos, Bachelor of Arts in Music, and Ryan Paul Mahali, Master of Fine Arts, Creative Writing and Poetics. Our faculty speaker, Elaine Yuen, is Associate Professor in Religious Studies, Chair, Department of Wisdom Traditions. Elaine Yuen is a PhD, and she received her PhD from the University of Pennsylvania and is a healthcare chaplain and meditation teacher. She's ordained as a Buddhist minister through Shambhala International and has taught national and international programs on caregiving, Buddhism, and creativity. Her current interests include exploring the relationships between ethics, social context, and contemplative modalities. Please welcome Elaine Yuen.
There's some crumbs up here. I don't know, I'm a little scared of I'm really honored to be the faculty speaker today, and I just like to give a shout out to my faculty buds, as well as all the students who are graduating, and I know some of you are in the audience and not graduating, as well as the family, friends, everyone who supported you on this journey here. So the other day, one of my colleagues was asking me about what makes a contemplative classroom. And as faculty here at Naropa, we talk about that a lot, and the jury's frankly still out on that, because we have a lot of things we do here that we consider contemplative. But I'd like to explore a different question. I'd like to think about with you, how is the learning environment, AKA the classroom, but right now I feel like this is a giant classroom, created through contemplative experience? And how might this experience support an understanding of diverse social locations and situations, which is really thank you, Chuck and Krista, for just bringing that up, because I think about those things a lot myself. As our faculty and students know, our classes at Naropa begin with a pause and end with a pause. And this pause is often embodied in the Naropa bow, which establishes a brief moment of not doing and not knowing, which is frankly a rarity in our contemporary Western world. It gives us an opportunity to stop in the midst of our rush to achieve, get ahead, and move on to the next thing. Yet the beginning and end do not predicate what flows in between the classroom content. Whether the topic is religious practice and theory, which we just had warriors exams on yesterday, eco-psychology, the arts, we just had a wonderful example of that, or research methodology. Classroom content emerges from the joining of academic expertise with the pause of not knowing. We bring to our learning a commitment to an academic discipline, as well as an openness and curiosity informed by our personal contemplative practices. And on a physical and environmental level, we pay attention to the classroom experience found within the walls of the classroom or within Mackey Auditorium, as well as what is brought from outside these walls, our social conditioning accumulated from life experiences. And I feel this is a great example of that, as so many friends, family are also here, that we need to honor as our, sort of literally as our ancestors and maybe our learning ancestors. As has been already noted by our wonderful speakers, we live in a complicated world these days. And understanding the spoken and unspoken intentions and meanings we bring to our learning often demands that students and faculty be responsive to individual and collective communication dynamics. And here, I feel our commitment to contemplative practices have the possibility to support an understanding of diversity and culture. Our emphasis on the immediacy of the first-person experience, which I think everyone, our students and faculty will know what that is. That's our explicit personal experiences, that we unearth in our classrooms many difficult conversations through a felt sense of environment and a somatic experience. A spirit of mindful inquiry may support the joining of emotions with understanding, resilience, and greater empathy. Training in Maitri, or friendship, and we actually have a whole series of courses around Maitri, can provide a ground of self-compassion and genuine caring for others, where personal and social aspects of context and culture may be felt and experienced. I personally feel this is the most important work we can do nowadays, both within Naropa and in addressing the world. In order to shift our conversations from ones of blame and guilt to those that include connection as well as difference, a capacity for self-forgiveness and friendship needs to be expanded. Our contemplative practice can provide that self-knowledge and reflective capacity that supports this ability. You graduates are stepping out into the world, a larger world rife with possibility, confusion, hope, disappointment. My wish for you is that this contemplative impulse, the gap, what we might call space, however you might experience that, will haunt you. As my teacher said, like a ghost. Our mutual challenge is to balance the spacious aspect of contemplative practices with a dynamic quality of interaction. Ultimately, our expression and communication should be relevant, timely, supported by contemplation and reflection, but also able to support genuine and sometimes difficult dialogue with others. I'd like to close with a doha, a song of realization, from Milarepa, a great yogi and teacher who lived in 11th century Tibet. In this song, he is in dialogue with one of his female students. So I'll be singing both sides. can contemplate the sky, but clouds make me uneasy. Milarepa, tell me how to meditate on clouds. If the sky's as easy as you say, clouds are just the sky's play. Let your mind stay within the sky. I can contemplate the sea, but waves make me uneasy. Milarepa, tell me how to meditate on waves. If the sea's as easy as you say, waves are just the sea's play. Let your mind stay within the sea. I can contemplate my mind, but thoughts make me uneasy. Milarepa, tell me how to meditate on thoughts. If your mind's as easy as you say, thoughts are just the mind's play. Let your mind stay within your mind.
This year's speaker for the Bachelor of Arts students is Awa Farida Indiai. She is a graduate from the Peace Studies Department, minoring in Religious Studies. Farida has spent the past 4 years of her undergraduate education at Naropa developing her voice as a storyteller and photographer. She's dedicated to issues of social justice and identity, addressing this work in her capstone thesis on reflecting and reclaiming the Black body, healing through image and storytelling, in which she is witnessing and illuminating the work of Afro voices that have come before her and stand alongside her in the Naropa community and in the larger world. This is her way of exercising our collective human right to our bodies and our story. Farida has been the student leader for SOCA, Student of Color and Allies Group, for the past 4 years, and is the most recent recipient for Naropa's Students' Union Social Justice Award.
So before I start, I have to say that Chuck, Krista, and I all got together and wrote the same speech. So I'm going to be repeating some things that have already been spoken. Yeah. Is Ramon here? Okay. All right. I want to take a moment to say we're here. We've arrived. Thank you to all the grandparents, parents, siblings, loved ones, ancestors in the room with us. We know many of you have traveled far to be here with us, whether from Tel Aviv, Pennsylvania, or North Boulder. And my own family from Arizona, France, San Diego, Brooklyn. It's truly an honor to get a glimpse into the love that helped guide and challenge us here into this very moment. So the thing about being a senior at Naropa is you feel like you've just started all over again. But instead of being bright-eyed and ready to meditate, you might meditate once or twice a month. Every day if you're Justin Phillips or Davis. You turn into an anonymous nobody. Freshmen start to ask you if you've just started too, and you give them the look. You're a bit cranky because you're pouring your life work into your thesis, your dreams into your thesis. You're literally giving life to something, and the emotional and academic exhaustion is real. This moment and the steps we'll take afterwards is what we've worked for. Part of my Naropa education, particularly being in the Peace Studies program, has introduced me to this notion of being a social justice warrior. I was actually listening to Krista Tippett's podcast on being in an episode where she interviews Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams. Reverend Angel is an incredible Black woman and Zen practitioner, one of the powerful voices that we've been blessed with here on this campus, in this community. So in this particular podcast, she names that in order to do our work, we have to come into deep knowing of who we are, that this work is the stuff that brings down systems of oppression. Capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy, and the ecological crisis couldn't survive if and when enough of us set out to do the work of reclaiming the human spirit. Reverend Angel continues on to say that this reclamation of the human spirit includes the humanity of the people that are the current vehicles for these forms of oppression. That's us. That's all of us in this room right now that need to continue doing the work, that deserve to take a deep breath in reflection of the work we've done, and some of us who are just beginning. I've come to understand my own unraveling story of identity is my work, one that deserves and needs to take up space, one that will continue to be vulnerable and build resilience. Reverend Angel says that in this place of vulnerability is where true transformative action must come from. Something I've been thinking a lot of in this transition is how my time at Naropa has been both greatly comforting and also filled with immense discomfort. The relationship I've developed with myself and my community are the sweetest gift, and I've been thinking to myself, why would I want to leave? The loved ones, the professors, and the ground that has nourished and held us in this intimacy of becoming. What's helping me is to understand and take seriously that it's our responsibility to carry what we've built here into the rest of the world and reclaim our humanity because the world needs it. I will end by thanking you each with my most Naropa vocabulary and the best eye gazing I can do from up here for holding the space and bearing witness to the incredible students and now wise teachers who are about to walk across this stage. And I want to leave you with my favorite words from Nahara Wahid, a poet, a woman of color. She says, "And if your gift is to make people feel something, do not cover that in apology. Do not lie to accommodate others' fear of feeling. So go out and make people feel." Thank you.
Our speaker for the Master of Arts students is Robert Eric Shoemaker. Eric is a poet, playwright, educator, and theater artist, and is graduating today from the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. Eric is the founding editor of Beats, a Naropa-based journal. Since its founding in response to the presidential election of November 2016, Beats has published many pieces, orchestrated 2 activist readings, and produced 2 concerts. Eric also served as co-chair of the Student Union of Naropa. Eric's book, We Knew No Mortality, was released this March from ACTA Publications. His writing has been featured in publications including the Gordian Review, Barley South Review, Mount Analog, and Columbia Journal. A third book of hybrid writing, Ca Venezia and Other Tales, is forthcoming from Partial Press. This fall, Eric will join the PhD Humanities programs at the University of Louisville to pursue a doctorate in translation studies and genderqueer studies. Eric Shoemaker.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So in another installment of the same speech, the words I want to give you are dangerous, and the sentiment that they come out of involves a warrior's compassion. To borrow a sentence, a focus about the work of warrior performance artist Taylor Mack, it's all about inspiring you to revolt against a government or an institution or your obstinate sense of self. A movement, a doing, the work. Contemplative education, an instrument of compassion, applies directly and in distinct ways to all of us here because all of us go into the world as learners and educators, constantly bringing ourselves and those around us to new ways of seeing, in the hope of compassion in all individuals of the world. We've been given a gift through contemplative education, and that gift is not self-sustaining in ourselves or in the wider world. What we've been given are tools: compassion, tenderness, practice, to bring the world together, and still the world is not amenable to our concerns, to our contemplation, to the metacognition of our place in the broader sense of this space. In other words, in graduating, we are about to lose a layer or layers of safety that we've become used to. However, Naropa University is not, or should not be because of its visionary founders, a place to rest, a place to float, a place to bask in the seeming ease of a hippie environment. As most of us know, and sometimes forget, the hippie in the purest sense of the idea was never complacent. There were those who kept company with Trungpa or any number of our school's tribe who did not ascribe to the society-changing critiques offered by their peers. The people surrounding great movements, but not participating in the difficult elements of them, the bystanders, do not make history. At Naropa, our lineage is not, emphatically and critically not, filled with bystanders, whether you look at the writing lineage as I have, or at every other foundational lineage at this institution. However we participate in the world, we must show up. We must not remove ourselves from the equation. Here, we are meant to stoke our individual lights so that we leave this place able to enact change rather than to watch the world burn. For those of us on the sheer edge of leaving this quote-unquote safe container, I want to point at the potential and the opacity of a place like this, to remind of or name the points of contact for those who are asleep, as well as those who know better than me what needs doing. A place like this is always on the verge, like us, of sheer collapse. Because Naropa and contemplative education are inherently subversive and create disruptions between logical, orderly, complacent, labeled, normative, perhaps Western structures. Challenges to structure from students, faculty, and staff alike have been the lifeblood and energetic action of my time at Naropa. This useful chaos is the thread that binds us together, and it should be welcomed as the opening of space, as Trungpa might have put it. Contemplation, meta-discourse, dialogic structures above from which one can see the machine, these impose useful chaos, instruct and educate compassion into the existing systems. We look at the machine from above and we discover how it works, where we fit, how we don't fit, learning to exploit and undermine the machinations of normative discourse, learning to diagnose the machine, to dissect. You in the world are not to hide, not to bask as the bystander, but to literally become, to transform what's out there, obligated to go out and work as ambassadors for bios in the eco, for life in the house we all inhabit. This work is what makes Naropa a unique place. In speaking of place through space, Bachelard writes, we should therefore have to say how we inhabit our vital space, in accord with all the dialectics of life, how we take root day after day in a corner of the world. For our house is our corner of the world. For anyone who has perfected the arts of solitude, aloneness, self-absorption, anxiety at the world, this broad space, I leave you with a new commission, a place from which to project and propel yourself into action. For those of you who are engaged in the world as an actor, I embolden you. I give you that because that is what Naropa, at its core, beyond the walls or the policies, gives you. We are set into motion in this era of public incompetence and dispassion to turn the world upside down, to trouble the lines we are told will always keep us apart. We are placed between the greatest wisdom and knowledge traditions of East and West to spark the fire that explodes out into this America and this world and tears it apart, sees how it works, and puts it back together in a passionate manner, in the manner of a with passionate or compassionate warrior for the betterment of all here meaning all. We are, because of our place in the midst of a clash, charged to co-create, to say, this is not that, so fix it, or there is a there, so fix it. Leave your own selfish notions behind in order to participate in a world and change it for all, to show that yes, contemplation has a place in society, touches the deep root of humanity, and helps resolve our place within the world, within ourselves, within each other, together, where we know there is work to be done. This is the world, and we are a part of it, and we are to work in the world so that we better it, leaving space for the coexistence of people with people, inviting ourselves to feel and to move within the world of that feeling, not to pat ourselves on the back, for the work is never done. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. This is your charge. I set forth the task or remind you of it, and I leave you to keep the fire burning, to energize as catalysts within the crucible the strength that Naropa possesses, that the world needs. I urge you, move. Thank you.
Your degree will be bestowed upon you. Don't worry. I promise. Well, to announce the Student Government and Ink Pen Awards, I would like to introduce the Dean of Students, Dr. Leary Nurse. Now, being Dean of Students is a huge responsibility, and so I think it is fit that we give him a special welcome. So, Dennis, please. No, Dennis, no, Dennis, he's the Dean of Students. It's a huge responsibility. This, please, something that fits him, okay? Did Chuck get you up to that? No. Look, it's a graduation, right? Something celebratory. Much better. Dr. Leary Nurse.
That was pretty good. Thank you, Lorenzo. So I am incredibly honored to share with you the recipients of the most recent Student and Campus Life Engagement Awards. And it was something that we decided to revitalize this year because one of the things that I truly believe in is recognizing students for their contributions in their student experience. And as much as the GPA is really an awesome thing to have, employers don't ask you, what was your GPA? They ask you, what student clubs were you involved in? How are you able to work as a team? How are you able to critically assess a particular situation? And so really being involved in student and campus life is something that is incredibly important to me. And so our impetus this year was to really recognize the students who have contributed significantly to the Naropa community in a variety of ways. And so I will read to you each of the recipients, and at the very end, I would just encourage you to do what we did last year. We're just going to do one big unison applause, okay? So the undergraduate student leader of the year is an undergraduate student who is going into their junior year. And I just want to share a little bit about this student with you. This student serves as the co-chair of the Student Union of Naropa, which is SUN. She's a passionate person with such love and care in her heart for the Naropa community. She's truly one of the brightest spirits on campus at Naropa. She's a natural and incredibly hardworking student leader who brings her sunny personality everywhere she goes. She's caring and passionate in her leadership and a dedicated agent of change. The recipient of the Undergraduate Student Leader of the Year Award was Kendall McCormick. Our outstanding Graduate Student Leader of the Year served as co-chair of SUN for a short period, also as the Beats Student Group founder and leader, also a Writing Center head fellow and graduate instructor who was involved in as many things as he seemed able to. He has organized events, put together Naropa development initiatives through SUN, and has dedicated his time at Naropa to bettering and enriching the community. The recipient of the Outstanding Graduate Student of the Year Award was Eric Shoemaker, our keynote speaker, student speaker. Our Faculty Involvement Award. The person that nominated this individual says, they have consistently gone out of their way to mentor students, stepped up to the plate numerous times for Naropa, and forgone their sabbatical twice to take on roles such as chair of the MFA when requested. They have given so many hours beyond what is required that is beyond countable. They've given their blood, sweat, and tears to work for Naropa and for the students. They're incredibly kind and compassionate, always present with students, connecting on a daily basis, intuitive to the needs of the individual and to the curriculum as a whole. They're like a supportive uncle we all know and love. They go above and beyond in their care and support to bring the community the best students have to offer. They never give up, despite all the challenges that emerge as they strive towards this commitment to creating conditions for student growth and quality of experience. This person, as they say, the man deserves an award. Help me recognize Lorenzo Gonzalez as the recipient of the Faculty Involvement Award. All of those awards were given out on April the 24th this year. Now I want to read to you the Priscilla Inkpin Award, and I will share with you the criteria and a little bit of who Priscilla Inkpin is. This award honors Priscilla Inkpin, who was the former Associate Dean of Students and Faculty at Naropa University, who passed away in March 2009. Priscilla was an inspiring activist with a vision of change and an unwavering commitment to social justice, sustained by her own open-hearted and open-minded approach. Her work was consistently informed by a global perspective and in-depth understanding of diversity and effective action. As an ordained Christian minister, Priscilla advocated for religious pluralism, believing in its connection to the creation of a more just world. Furthermore, as an activist in the GLBTQIA community, she was steadfast as an ally for all marginalized community. Naropa presents this award annually at commencement to one or more graduating students who are inspired by a similar vision and strive to bring that vision into compassionate action by integrating their practice and activism in service of a more just world. I'll share with you a little bit about the recipient, and at the end I want you to just put your hands together and again recognize all of these individuals. The recipient of this award will hold a Master's of Arts degree in Clinical Mental Health Counseling with a concentration in transpersonal mindfulness-based counseling. This nominee served as an officer in SUN. As you can hear, there's a theme here, SUN, SUN, SUN. As an advocacy chair and was a student liaison in the steering committee for the Bias Education and Response team in collaboration with the Office for Inclusive Community. The nominator is quoted as saying, "Her work has largely gone unnoticed. She played a significant role in pushing Naropa to become a sanctuary campus and is well-rounded in her walking the talk, consistently and compassionately calling people in, rather than out, calling people into the conversation around gender, LGBTQIA, international, racial, class, ability, body size, and other forms of oppression. I am pleased to announce the recipient of the Priscilla Inkpin Award as Sherry Cross. Sherry, stand at this time. One more time, put your hands together for all of the recipients. Thank you.
Okay. We're on it. Could the master's degree candidates please rise?
Mr. President, the individuals now presented to you have completed all of the requirements for the degrees of Master of Arts, Master of Divinity, or Master of Fine Arts. At the request of the faculty of the Naropa University and on their behalf, I present them to you for the awarding of those degrees.
Upon successful completion of degree requirements, by the authority vested in me, I confer on you the degree of Master of Arts, Master of Divinity, or Master of Fine Arts, with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. So please be seated, except for those of you that were not. Oh, sorry.
I invite the Dean of the Graduate School of Counseling and Psychology, Dr. Kathleen Gregory, to announce the names of the master's students.
President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the degree of Master of Arts, Clinical Mental Health Counselling, Contemplative Psychotherapy and Buddhist Psychology graduates. Mo Banky. Elsie Bassman. Anthony James Delacio. Metzli Luna. Mark Dumas. Belinda Enriquez Sanchez. Kofi Adrian Freeman.
Gentuso.
Thank you. Steph Gentuso. Anastasia Louise Gowam-Yevsky. Kirsten Kathleen Hans. Cody Grantlin Jackson. Kimberly Kaplan. Zachary Mitchell Kruger. Kelly A. Landrum. Auguste Elizabeth Perez. Princios. Alexandra Princios. Ruth Bailey Shermer. Vicky L. Vale. Nika Zari. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Somatic Counselling, Concentration in Body Psychotherapy and Dance Movement Therapy graduates. Anna Andahazi. Sujin Ma. Giovanna Jasmine Paine. Giovanna Jasmine Paine. Sorry, my Australian accent. Paine. President Leaf and Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Somatic Counselling Psychology, Concentration in Body Psychotherapy graduates. Castellano. Joseph D. Castellano. President Leaf and Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduate from the Somatic Counselling, Concentration in Dance Movement Therapy. Jennifer T. Fay. Maya R. Golam. Estrella Lacefield. Nina Lorenzo. Mayor Simons Kaplan. Oditi Utawa. President Leaf and Provost Kramer have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Transpersonal Counselling Psychology concentration in mindfulness-based transpersonal counselling. Sarah Lynn Amberg. Andrea M. Anderson. Charlotte Ann Anderson. Monique R. Barrow. Burlam. Ian Burlam. Randy Philip Brunig. Susan Emily Brown. Trevor M. Brown. Canella. Kevin Andrew Canella. Congratulations. Desmond Raph Cohen. Katharina Jane Donahue. Elena Dubose. Jonathan Edward Fuller. Michael Stafford Gay. Eve M. Halpern. Michelle L. Hart. Margaret Hilton. Esther Maria Horowitz. Andre Kakames. Congratulations. Shiree Cruzy. Sylvie Lamb. Yuko Catherine Lawrence. Thank you. Ryan J. Lecomte, Marine Corps veteran. Gabriel Santiago Leon. Martinez. Melissa Ivana Martinez. Lena Hilda McCain. Sophie Neville. Dia Nicholson. Angie Perry Martin. Natalie V. Papalaz Caris. Jennifer D. Peters. Amy Catherine Phillips. Jeremy Michael Riddell Kaufman. Julianne Ocean Francis Royce. Joshua Daniel Rudder. Rebecca Ann Runkles. Lance R. Spencer. Stein. Jennifer Lee Stein. Shannon Summerland. Lawrence Todd Tillman. Jordan E. Urban. Martha Susan Yushinik. Annie Jessica Vale. Giovanna Marie White. Justine Worsmuck. Stephanie Melissa Winkler. President Chuck Leaf and Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Transpersonal Counselling Psychology, Concentration in Transpersonal Art Therapy graduates. Kylie Marie Becker.
Try your best.
So, Paula,
Yeah, just try your best.
Paula Gasparini de Oliveira Santos. Kathleen Honeychurch Knisley. Hannah Rose Martell. Erin Nicole Mudgett. Emily Catherine Murray. Chris Miguel Nathan. Jessie Marie Knuckles. Jamie Lynn Peschke. Kaylee Emmanuel Ritz. Sansaray Dolores Sells. Jung Il Samagari. President Leaf and Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Transpersonal Counselling Psychology, Concentration in Transpersonal Wilderness Therapy graduates. Lindsay Aronson. Alyssa Crandall. Benjamin Butler Fishbein. Nikki G. Chelsea Lynn Hauer. Brandy Lene Irby. Ros J. Kutana. Stephanie McBride. Kelly Drew McClelland. Caitlin Teresa Rodkevitz. Thank you. Sarah Jean Schwab. Micah Freeland Walcott. President Leaf and Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Environmental Leadership Program. Araluis Cosman Torres. Anastasia Nicole Hill. Sarah Modesty Iverson. President Leaf and Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Religious Studies, Concentration in Contemplative Religions graduates. Grant Conda. Tien Nguyen. Lydia Giles Taylor. William John Warwick IV. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Concentration in Indo-Tibetan Studies. Adesh Baroa. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates in Religious Studies with Language, Concentration in Contemplative Religions. Michael Culp. What's this? Huh? Oh, okay. Sorry. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour to present to you the graduate of the Concentration in Indo-Tibetan Studies with Language, Stephanie Michelle Basford. Cody Paul Foster. Benjamin Joseph Goldstein. Thank you. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Transpersonal Ecopsychology program. James Recido Head. Lauren Mangan. Sierra A. Robinson. Casey Michelle Shivers. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the degree of the Master of Divinity. Joseph Evermery. Atlas Tanajaja. Venerable Fatlak Tamajoy. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the degree of Master of Fine Arts, Creative Writing. Jacqueline Henryon. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of the Creating Writing and Poetics. Jessica Pearl Down. Emily Marie Passos Duffy. Sarah Rhiannon Eskew. Paul Christopher Gomez. Brian Paul Mahali. Robert Eric Shoemaker. Caleb David Worst. President Leaf, Provost Kramer, I have the honour of presenting to you the graduates of Theatre, Contemporary Performance graduates. Rebecca S. Buckley. Landon Melissa Melendez. Gabriella Petrov. Ashley Marie Rice. Too quick. Madeline Rose Robinson. Chi Sito. Chie Sito.
Stelter.
Kristen Marie Stelter. Annabelle Tirado. Woodsick. Oh, no, we're in the Bachelor of Arts. No, you're right. That completes the graduates of the master's programs.
Ready?
Yep.
Would the bachelor's degree candidates please stand?
Mr. President, the individuals now presented to you have completed all of the requirements for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Fine Arts. At the request of the faculty of the Naropa University and on their behalf, I present them to you for the awarding of those degrees.
Upon successful completion of degree requirements, by the authority vested in me, I confer on you the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Fine Arts, with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. So most of you may be seated.
I invite the Dean of Naropa College, Carol Clements, to announce the names of the BA students.
Ready?
The degree of Bachelor of Arts, Contemplative Art Therapy, Justina Rose Pape. Contemplative Psychology, Concentration in Psychological Science in Somatic Psychology, Brankston M. Dudley, Jr. Michael Collins. Andrea Otoya Covelli. Darcy N. DeRoss. Connor Wells Marvin. Erica I. Scher. Leanne Francis Wagner. Catherine Ann Wallace. Concentration in Psychology of Health and Healing and Psychological Science, Brooks Bell. Concentration in Psychology of Health and Healing, Transpersonal and Humanistic Psychology, Diana Nicole Senzig. Concentration in Somatic Psychology, Benji J. Kirkpatrick. Heidi Marie Lukenick. Bobby Joe Miner. Sarah K. Strain. Concentration in Somatic Psychology and Transpersonal and Humanistic Psychology, Julia Rose Grazzini. Concentration in Transpersonal and Humanistic Psychology, Heather Hodge. Emily Beth Stevens. Helene Vandenberg. Creative Writing and Literature, Camille Elaine Craig. Wheeler Mark Light. Shay Reynolds. Early Childhood Education, Daniela Alejandra Cruz Valle. Early Childhood Education in Traditional Eastern Arts, Concentration in Yoga Teacher Training, Nathaniel Michael. Environmental Studies, Kathleen Mary Brickner. Sam Riley Giesemann. Antoinetta Cecilia Giuliano. Sorry. Luna Tsipora Liebling. Morgan Magda. Rivi Yardena Marcus. Harrison H. Mooney. Shaylin Ray Pergola. Stephanie Southie Wagneroth. Interdisciplinary Studies, Jai Yu Kelly Huang. Eden Cross. Gabriella May Reamer. Yi Tang Yang. Demetrius Balduc. Edward Galan. Jaffa Anu Amashi. Jan Renee Farias. Sky L. Walden. Alexander Bornick. Olivia Francesca Whitney Scammell. Finn Walm. Music, Lauren Faye Bulch. I think I got it. Witsi Lopatzli Diaz. Alvaro Saldana. Justin Michael Phillips. Pamela K. Rosenthal. Peace Studies, Blake Gibbons. Awa Farida Ndiaye. Religious Studies, Davis Trakti. Lourdes Sanchez Wise. Traditional Eastern Arts, Concentration in Tai Chi Chuan, Travis D. Morrison. Concentration and Yoga Teacher Training, Jenna Nabila Jennings. Zoe Heike Kingman. Leslie J. Meese. Peter C. Michelson. Jody P. Lefkowitz. Brittany A. Orico. Michelle Sacco. Visual Arts, Jordan Millman. Peter John Stamps. Yoga Studies, Autumn Deborah Jolly.
I have no idea. Do you have anything else, or is it just me, right? Okay. Yep. So, One more time, congratulations to all the graduates. So lately I've been asking people to have their dramas without me. I'm actually very delighted that you invited me to participate in this. It's really a joy for me and for all of my colleagues to be able to do the work that we do, knowing that each May we will come to this celebration. So thank you all for allowing us to be here. That is it. We do have a reception at the Nalanda campus at 63rd and Arapahoe immediately after this. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to families, friends for the support to all of our students. What? And I also want to thank the University of Colorado for changing their schedule so that we actually don't have to have this event on Mother's Day, so you can actually all celebrate Mother's Day somehow tomorrow without this, so good for that. I will ring the closing gong and bow, and then we are finished, so thank you very much. Give it a minute, just 1 minute.